If Generation Zero spent its first year getting started climbing up its mountain of potential, then in year 2, Generation Zero can see the ridge just on the horizon as it climbs up that mountain. But that's not to say that there haven't been a few avalanches along the way. 2020's been a year of hardship that none of us had expected. We've seen those shockwaves in the gaming industry, and Generation Zero has clearly been one of the mediums that has suffered throughout this past year. In year 1, we saw 551 bug fixes in total, and throughout this year, we've seen 379 fixes. Though we've seen less fixes, that's not to say the team hasn't accomplished excellent things this year. They've introduced some great things, from a roaming boss to a full-on mainland DLC, and doing that during COVID is totally respectable. But just like I said in year 1, but without mountains, there are no valleys. And that holds true to this year. In April, we saw tweaks to the machine's AI that resulted in one of the worst couple months that we've had to go through here with Generation Zero. And even worse, this happened during the free weekend that could have seen the introduction of thousands of new players. This broken difficulty lasted for 3 months on PC, 5 months on Xbox, and 8 months on PS4. And even though some people actually enjoyed the crazy difficulty that we saw from April's update, most people did not enjoy the difficulty. And this is one of the prime locations where we see COVID having an impact, is how long things took to actually get fixed, especially in the long run for PlayStation players in specific. Throughout May, we saw no update as per usual due to Swedish customs, which really is all chillin'. I think it's really good that in Sweden they have a priority for employees taking leave off of work, and I think that it's a very healthy thing. So it's no problem that we didn't see an update in May, and this had no relation to COVID. After that came June with the launch of FNIX Rising on PC, the latest DLC for GZ as of this video. This was a wild experience for me personally. I got a chance to play the DLC early, and it's probably my most successful moment so far making content for Generation Zero. But FNIX Rising itself, to me at least, was a great addition to the story and to the game overall. It introduced classic characters like Uncle Cal and Veronica, and I won't spoil it for those that haven't played it yet, but its plot has some wild repercussions for the game moving forwards, and leaves things on a great note for what's up next. Sadly, though, it wasn't a perfect launch, with delays to both of the consoles leaving them far behind the PC version for up to pretty much half of the year. It took 3 months to get onto Xbox, and it took 6 months to get onto PS4. And all this while, the console players were still plagued by the difficulty problems that had arisen back in April's update. Now, was the DLC itself worth the wait? Definitely, especially alongside all of its fixes, but could the wait have been avoided? And I think that that's a really important question that really honestly only the team can answer. I feel like with proper planning, maybe it could have been. Maybe if the PC version had been pushed back, the wait wouldn't have felt so terrible. But it's hard to say, and what's happened has already happened. Now, at this point, things are seeming pretty rough for 2020, with the broken AI leading into FNIX Rising and its delays coinciding with the literal spans of months where we saw absolutely no updates for the game. It's not shaping up well, but trust me, things start to get better along the way. Finally, in November is when things started to shape up and get back to the normal Generation Zero that I know and love. In November, we saw the introduction of our first boss-type machine, the Reaper, basically the beefiest tank that you'll be able to fight in the game so far, with proper fat loot rewards to go alongside him. Honestly, the Reaper was a huge breath of fresh air in terms of challenge in the game, and still serves to be a great challenge on the higher difficulty levels. In December, we saw the American Weapons Pack introduced. Personally, I really dig the weapons, especially as a first iteration of weapon packs here in the game. They're fun to add to the mix of guns that I play with, and more so, really with the American Weapons Pack, I've got my eyes on what future weapon packs could have in store for us. They could become a really awesome way to introduce small spurts of content for us to enjoy, and I think with the feedback on the American Weapons Pack, we'll only see better introductions in the future. In January, the team took another breather and we saw no update throughout that month, but then in February we saw the final Farmlands facelift and the introduction of assignments. Assignments are a great addition, especially in regards to new players going through the game. But honestly, they have their merit in how they add a factor of replayability to the game for longtime players, and they're pretty great for crafting materials. Again, just like with everything, the teams received a ton of feedback on assignments, especially in terms of difficulty, so hopefully they'll take that feedback and be able to act upon it in future updates. And to highlight this kind of specifically amongst everything else, this entire year we've seen the Farmlands get revamped, the largest region in the game. An absolutely mammoth task for the team, and one that's awesome to see the end result of. Exploring the new Farmlands for me is like having a whole new map to explore, and all the awesome added locations have been really fun to explore and find along the way throughout this year. Even with all of my love for Generation Zero, I can't deny that this has been a tough year, especially for us here in the community. But that's why I really like to use the mountain analogy when I talk about Generation Zero. Climbing a mountain isn't easy. In fact, it's super fucking difficult. Generation Zero has an immense amount of potential, but in order to reach that potential, the team has to put in an equally immense amount of effort. Personally, I believe that they're more than capable. I have since day one, and I haven't changed my mind on it, even throughout all the hard times of 2020. Now, here we are, starting off year 3 on literally the strongest note we've seen yet, seeing the introduction of base building to the game, which honestly is going to be huge. It's going to be the biggest thing added to the game since its launch, and this is why I believe the team has got this. The team is able to take Generation Zero and climb all the way to the pinnacle of that motherfucking mountain. Not just because of how they've persevered through COVID or, dealt with the hard times that we've gone through, but mostly with how they continue to be ambitious with the updates that they bring to the game. With how they've revamped the entire Farmlands, introduced the roaming boss of the Reaper, expanded on crafting, and made it a really integral part of the game, and now they're bringing base building to the game. And then we've got this whole evolving plot that is just the coolest experience to go through in video gaming, and honestly, I am more stoked than ever for the next upcoming DLC for Generation Zero. Honestly, Generation Zero will reach that potential, will reach the peak of that mountain, and we're all going to be here to see that happen. My dudes, year 3, let's friggin' go.